I can't say it. I'm on the phone. Not even.
It's got to say live on.
Oh, I just did. I did see it. I just see it splashed across the screen and said broadcasting live, and you're live. I see it on top left corner.
Yeah, now it says live. Yeah, we're live seconds. Now. Yeah. But I'm still waiting for it to come up on my TV. Here it comes. Okay. There you are. We're live.
It's playing an ad for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you this. I'm getting sick of watching videos. I haven't uploaded in 4 weeks with all these commercials going on videos. So just get into the video.
Some of these you can't skip.
No, you can't. Some of them there's two commercials.
The short ones, the ones that are like 10, 12 seconds or less, you can't skip those.
I don't mind them, but it's this one was, I don't know. I clicked off it. This one was longer than that. It was like 30 seconds.
Oh, I hate that. Well,
right,
you know.
Proposition real quick, Jim, you're going to hate me. Mitch, grab your computer, put it in your car, and drive to Jim's house. And set up your computer there to get the Assistant 2 going. That's the only way he's going to do it.
I got it going. I got it going.
Oh, good. Okay. Got it fixed.
Charlie Mafia and I spent, first of all, we started texting, and then so many texts went by that I said, screw it. And I called them, and we did it wound up being 3 hours. I had the drone outside in the garage, but I finally got it connected to DJI Assistant. Assistant is funky, man. I'm telling you.
Well, once you connected it to the Assistant, I guess you're able to get it fixed then, huh?
Well, here's the thing. It told me that the remote control was up to date on Aircraft Firmware 7.7.0. It said the aircraft was not. The aircraft was on 6.7.0. Hey, Mike. And I don't even know if I have Charlie's email address. I didn't open up.
So do you have it working? Did you fire the Mavic 2 Pro up? No.
Every time it downloads the software, firmware, it gets all the way down, 100%, but then will not upload to the bird at all. 0. All right, now we get StreamYard. Where is this invite thing? Share. No, invite, yeah. Copy. Okay. Let me see if I can get Charlie to come on here.
Well, I can't see the chat, so I don't know who's out there, but hello to everybody. I see Michael McReynolds said hello to me. There you are. Hi, Michael. So hi to everybody. I suppose I could go get another portable device out here on the porch and play the chat on it.
That's what I have to do when I live stream.
Yeah.
If I want to see the chat. Yeah. All right. So, okay, let me get rid of the email. What I wound up doing, multiple cables, okay? And I finally went with the cable from a Blackmagic Design, the USB-C that goes from the speed editor, to the computer. That one worked. And I was able to download. But I was also able to download software from the Go4 app itself, the hamburger. When you hold your finger there for 7 seconds, it'll give you the latest firmware. I'm able to download it. It won't install. Let me see if I can go over to that screen. Yeah, that one. And then, where is it? Here. DJI Assistant 01. See, 98%. And I was never able to get this far before.
So you didn't get over the 98% mark. It stopped right there.
On Assistant. I actually got it 100% at one time.
But did it finish? Did it actually tell you that it was complete?
But you see the white screen? How there's nothing up in the left corner to even connect to the Mavic 2 bird?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there it is. There it is. Took me 2 days and forever to get that to work. And then this tells you that the update, the no-fly zone database is required. Well, it would not update. I clicked on it and it would not update. And behind it, you can see that you need to update your software. Very light. I don't think you can see it, Mitch.
No.
So is the bottom line, Jim, that it's still not working?
Right. I got it. I got it to actually download, and it will not install onto the bird.
Okay, so I have a solution for you. Come over to my house, and we'll see if we can get it working.
What was the other one?
Because there's something going on, and it might be something with your computer and drivers and all kinds of other shit. There may be a conflict in there somewhere that would be ridiculous to troubleshoot. So the best thing to do would be to try it on a whole different environment. And then if you have the same problem, you know it's not your computer. If you do have if you don't have the same problem at my house and you do on your house, then you have a problem somewhere in that computer with some kind of driver conflict or something that's just stalling it out somewhere.
Jim, this might sound stupid. Did you try to uninstall Assistant and reinstall it?
3 times. I used 3 different versions.
You've done that. Did you try to go back a version? Did you try to downgrade the software?
I went down 2 versions. Charlie Drone Psyche, Charlie Mafia, he had version 2.1. I was like, yay, because
no, I mean different versions of the firmware, not the drone firmware.
Look, it already says right on the screen that my bird's firmware is on 670, and I need to be on 770. And while we finally got that after 3 hours to download to the aircraft, it will not install on the aircraft.
Right, and that's why what I'm saying is the fact that it won't, and the reason I'm suggesting that you bring it over here is because way back when I remember when I first got my Mavic Pro, I had a computer. I was running into all the same problems that you're running into. I could get it connected. It would start to download. It would get to a certain point, and then it kept freezing. And it wasn't until I took it to a different computer,
right,
that it actually went through with no problem whatsoever. So
I had problems with drivers on my Mac, and I couldn't use Betaflight on it, Mitch. So I had to use an old PC I had in order to use Betaflight. So it could be a driver, like Mitch was saying.
That's what I'm saying. But to troubleshoot that is such a pain in the ass that the first thing you want to do is eliminate that as a cause of the problem and isolate it to either a problem with the drone itself or a problem with the computer itself. So bring the drone to my computer, and we'll use my computer. We'll use my DJI Assistant that I know works because I use it all the time, and we'll see if we can get your drone updated.
Now you see version 770 downloads, and it also downloads from the aircraft itself. But it will not load back onto the bird. I had several of these. I was doing screen recordings because I was so happy that it even connected. And then you see that?
Yeah.
Updating it to the bird failed.
Well, I got a computer that I know works. I have one particular cable that I always use, and it always works. I know all that shit is good. All I need is your drone, and we can try to tell you where the problem is.
Well, I'm going to try that because all these guys in the forum are now saying, try a USB 2 port. I don't have a USB 2 port.
The USB 2 is the one with the blue plastic in it, right?
I think it was It depends on the manufacturer, to be actually
Yeah, but
honest with you.
generally, the convention is that the USB 1.0s are black and the USB 2.0s are blue inside
And
of
then
the
it's
port on the computer.
3.1s are supposed to be red, blah, blah, blah.
I don't have any 3.1s, but I do have a lot of. I always use the blue ones. I always use the USB 2 ports, which I have on the front of my computer, and they work fine. The computer where I was having all the problems way back when did not have that blue port in it, and I don't know if that was the problem or not. But when I went to a computer that had USB 2, and I used.
See, it's disconnecting and connecting from the bird, acting like it's updating. And
Yeah,
these are those are actually the drives on the drone. This was a thrill for me to even get to the point where I could click on the blue Mavic box. I wasn't even getting that. And then there's no way the no-fly zone database will update. It just won't.
I always ignore them anyway. I went when I went out there to the park the other day to fly to Mavic 2. The first thing it came up with on the screen was, your database needs updated. I just hit ignore. And
well, look at this.
It went away and everything went fine.
After so many tries, it started saying cannot load the firmware list. Can't load the friggin' firmware list. It gave up on me. But I was just happy to even get it to where the damn blue light came on so I could click on the Mavic 2 because I wasn't getting that. And the other videos I had were of trying to do because it tells you, the first thing it tells you is it is required to update the no-fly zone database. Clicked on that, absolutely nothing happened.
Did you jump from firmwares to go to the most recent one?
Yeah, I actually went back because I'm on 670. It says on the bird. This thing says
how many firmwares did you skip?
I went
to get to the most recent.
Only one. I went back to 670, tried to refresh that, and then tried to reinstall 770. It has no problems with the RC. The RC went down a firmware and came back up to the 770, and you're sitting there watching it on your iPad 4, and it just works like it's supposed to. But neither the iPad way of doing it for the Go 4 or DJI Assistant would download the firmware, yes. Upload it onto the bird, no. And it did all the appropriate noises. The aircraft would shut off and turn back on like it actually did something, you know what I mean? Hey, Tomas.
Hey, Tomas. Hello, everyone. I can't see the chat, so hello to all.
Ari's here. Ari says, I just updated both the Mavic 2 Pro and the Zoom to 770 via the Go 4 app and didn't need, right. I was able to successfully download it and install it for the remote firmware from there, but not the drone. It would download the 770, it just wouldn't install it. I don't get it.
So what's your next plan of attack? Take Mitch up on his offer?
Yeah. If he has a 2.0 spot, a USB 2.0 slot, I'll try that. What else are you going to try?
Jim, I have a computer that works every time when I update any of my DJI stuff, whether it's the FPV air units or goggles or the or my Mavic 2 Pro or my Mavic 2 Zoom. Never have a problem. It always finds it. It always works and always completes the update.
This son of a bitch got to the point where it wouldn't even upload the firmware list anymore. Why would that happen?
What's it doing now? I'm watching the screen. Is it?
See, there it's trying to install it to the bird. Because those are the drives that are on the Mavic 2 Pro. It's got two drives, the one with the SD slot and the one with the 8 gigabyte storage on the drone. And they show up in your device manager.
Right, but that's not where it puts the firmware.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, you got no choice. So I'll try Mitch's. And then I tried to see if anything else is working. Well, the other stuff works. Although I couldn't export any logs. But you see, these other things would turn on. Let's see what Ari's saying. I tried at Mitch's and eliminate environmental issues. If that doesn't work, onboard NavRAM may be corrupt. It's just from one day to the next. It's unbelievable. I was flying the day before. That's it. I don't think the other one is software on that. No, it's not. All right. Where's the stop sharing thing? Where is the stop sharing? Oh.
There you go.
So.
Well, it's too windy to fly anyway. Well, I'll tell you, it's been windy, hasn't it?
It's windy here today.
Oh, man, it's been crazy windy down here.
I thought trying to do the vision sensor sucked when you got to sit there and hold the bird and follow the blue on screen.
Remember, I couldn't do it when I had you guys on Messenger. I kept on screwing up.
You got to be steady like a rock, man. What's new with you, Kelly?
Man, just sitting at work. Just got back from a flight and just got in here and got some paperwork done and popped on. Sorry I haven't been around for the last couple of weeks. Been busy, but you know how it goes.
Yeah, that's cool.
You know, we have a saying up here in North Dakota: if you wait for the wind to go down, you'll never do anything.
Hey, Ed.
Hey, what's up, man?
I need to pull up my chat. Oh, this time I'll say right there. Oh man, 3 and
Ed, how you doing, buddy?
everybody. Yeah, everybody's blue. All right. Yeah, so we spent 3.5 hours doing that, and then, of course, all the guys on the forum. There's no help from DJI itself. You know that. None of their reps.
Doesn't DJI follow some of those forums? You would think they'd pop in and help the guy out.
They're their forums, you would think, yeah.
I mean, they have technical support, but it's very hard to get.
Technical support is horrible.
Restart the drone.
Who said that?
Technical support.
Oh, this
Yeah,
is what the chat
restart
said.
the drone. Send it, send it into us. Take a video. Send us videos of what you're doing. That's one thing they like to do. Send us pictures and videos.
And then when you do that, okay, so if I was to do that, then wait probably 3-4 days for them to get back to you. They're going to say, okay, send the drone in.
Yeah.
And for a fee, we'll do XYZ.
The oddest thing is that this thing was just flying one day, and then the next day it turned around and said inconsistent software upload or update all modules. I took pictures. First, I was, like I said, I was sitting there sending Charlie pictures, and I'm like, this is what I'm getting, man. I'm going to see what.
Well, sometimes, Jim, when you've updated the firmware, you have to update all your batteries too. So you'll get that message when you put a battery in that hasn't been updated, and it'll tell you to do that right before you go and fly, and you can do that over the air, and usually works.
I never got as far as that. See, it wouldn't. Well, you can't see this with this crap camera, but it won't tell you the firmware version of the aircraft. It says unknown, version unknown. And if you try and update it from there, you can't. You have to use the Go4 app, which I did, and it would show 7.7. Shit, I can show you right here.
Didn't your M210 do the same thing? Not show you firmware?
The M210 disconnected completely. Yeah, and it didn't show firmware, it didn't show serial numbers, didn't show battery, and that was the death of the flight board.
I have a theory. You know the neighbor who you pissed off real bad? He's got a big parabolic antenna, and he's aimed it at your house, and he's projecting interference your way, and that's what's causing all these problems.
Conspiracy theory, how much?
You got to start theorizing when you have no explanation. You flew it yesterday. Today it's coming up with this crap. What the hell's that?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Out of the blue.
One thing I make sure I do every time I fly, I make sure that I am not connected to the internet, period.
Well, I had in the back of the car, okay, if the drone, like the Matrice, sits in the back of the car, and I go over a bumpy road, that will actually piss it off, and I'll have to come back and redo the vision position sensors and all that. So now I break it down and put it in the, if it gets banged around or vibrated too much, it wants to be calibrated again. So I learned that lesson. Everything is always broken down and in the box when I'm driving somewhere.
Do you ever have that problem with the Mavic or just the Matrice?
No, just the Matrice.
Yeah, because I don't think I've ever calibrated the vision sensor.
On the 2 Pro, I have.
Have you? I never did and never had a problem. I mean, I'm not relying on obstacle avoidance when I fly. I usually turn it off.
Well, what happened, Dan and I were flying and the drone would stop in the middle of the sky. It would dead stop like there was something in front of it.
Well, you had the obstacle avoidance turned on, right?
Yeah, I leave it alone. It's on, whatever it's on.
I always turn it off when I fly. I don't want that. I get tired of the beeping, and I don't want that thing stopping me from doing what I want to do. If I crash it into a tree, it's going to be my fault,
It did. It would stop in the middle of the sky for absolutely no reason. I mean,
sometimes the sun will do that.
I heard that.
Where if you're flying towards the sun, and it'll confuse those sensors, and the thing will come to a screeching halt on you.
I heard that. Let me see. Let's go to this. Share screen. Go on here. Go back to this. Let's see. Can we go to video edit? Yeah, let's go down. And they got allow shorts permission, allow embedding. Well, I don't see the shorts now. Look at this. This setting can be changed once your video is processed. Okay, so it will be turned on. And then once your video is processed, you can turn it off. I wanted to see what it was doing now. That shorts permission. I know a lot of these camera guys don't want their crap shared. Photography guys.
Yeah.
That's intellectual work, intellectual copyright. If I'm doing that for a business, like Jay McCulley does, or I think Ron does too, doesn't he? Okay, he was doing weddings and stuff.
If you're working for a client, you're not going to be posting that stuff on YouTube. You're not going to be posting client footage on YouTube anyway, are you?
I've seen people do it.
Yeah, but then they're asking for it to be stolen. I mean, even if you listen, Jim, even if you can't, if YouTube won't let you download or YouTube won't let you share it, if you want to grab a copy of it, all you need is a screen recorder. You play the YouTube video on your computer, record the screen and audio.
Oh yeah, I know.
Right. You got a copy of it. So,
But at least that way, you're not taking out the guy's logo. If you screen recorded, his logo is still on it. You see what I mean?
yeah, unless you post process and blow it up and get the logo out of the picture. I mean, there's always ways to steal shit if you want to.
Right. Yeah, if you're going to do that kind of work to it. Because I know.
Anything I put out there on YouTube, anybody, this is me. I'm not getting paid big bucks for it. I'm like, and from anywhere. I don't care if somebody uses it. If somebody uses it, at least maybe give me some attribution on it, and I'll maybe get a subscriber out of it. I'll be happy.
Well, that's the thing. It doesn't kick back to you. It doesn't. It doesn't have your channel on it.
Yeah.
Hey, Steve.
Who that? Steve.
Steve Carpenter.
Steve from the land of fruits and nuts. How you doing, Steve?
Steve sent me a copy of Assistant 2 that was earlier than the version 1.4 I had. And Charlie from Drone Psych, he sent me a copy. So I used 3 different copies, and I was able to get the stuff to download, Steve. But on the aircraft, it would not install 770, the latest firmware.
That's crazy.
I think
That's
it's your
wild.
Computer. I think it's your computer, Jim.
Your mic is blasting. I wonder why that is.
Who, mine?
No, Steve's.
Oh.
Am I blasting?
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me turn my gain down.
He's blasting to me. Is he blasting to you?
Sounds all right here. Sounds about the same as your level.
Okay.
Maybe it's just me. I'll turn mine down.
Yeah. Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, everybody in chat.
Hey, Steve, how you doing?
Good, good, good.
USB drivers. I did check them. I checked Device Manager. And the drone shows up on there. It's up under Electron. And then it also shows up under other devices, which I thought was cool. But you can't, when you right click, it's always using that Microsoft 2006 USB driver.
Do you have a notebook computer?
It's a workstation. It's a Asus Rogue GL702.
It runs Windows. Why don't you try that?
That's what I used.
Oh no, I mean, do you have another computer?
No, I don't use another one.
Does your wife have a computer?
Yeah, she got all in one.
Try using her computer and see what happens.
Yeah, but how would that stop it from uploading to the bird?
A driver issue, a memory issue, some kind of issue. You gotta just try to find out if it's the bird or the computer. And the only way you're going to do that is to swap, change the whole thing. Go to a different computer with the same bird. If you still have the same problem, then you begin to suspect that it's a hardware problem on your drone.
Yeah, I used three different cords, 3 different versions of DJI Assistant 2. Was finally able to get, like I said, like I showed you, was able to get it on, and but just couldn't. Hey, what you think, Ari?
Hey, good day, guys. How are we? I reckon I'm in Mitch's camp. It's very, very likely it's some sort of environmental issue on the PC would be. Look, that's the most likely. The only other thing that comes to mind is that the non-volatile memory on the bird itself has become corrupt and therefore won't accept the upload. But the likelihood of that is sort of next to nothing, because how many times do you upload to that in the life of the aircraft? A dozen times. Most NVRAM can be written to 1,000,000 times. Well, a bit of an exaggeration.
Oh, where'd that go?
Yeah, try it on your wife's computer. I mean, what do you got to lose? Just download Assistant and go to it. That's all.
But at least I know that because I was able to get on that the bird itself is on version 6.7.0, which it lied to me because it told me when you turn this bird on this Go 4 screen, it says the versions are fine, no problem. It's when you go to fly that it says version mismatch, update all modules.
The only time I've ever seen the version mismatch thing is after I've done the initial update, and then you swap in a new battery. You know, it wants to do that. But when I did the updates from 660 to 670 to 770 on the Zoom and the Pro, which was this week, I did it with Go 4, and the only thing I did, atypically, is I used the smart controller instead of the standard remote controller for the bird. But it did the update for me, and every time I put a new battery in, it said mismatch, and I flicked the little slider across and it updated the battery.
You usually get inconsistent firmware, and you can slide it across and upgrade the battery. Yeah.
Definitely try the wife's computer. That's the closest, or over at Mitch's place, either way.
Well, like I said, the remote control worked fine, downloading and upgrading to 770, both on the Go 4 app and on the DJI Assistant. But the aircraft wouldn't upgrade. It downloaded the firmware 770, but it would not upgrade to.
Well,
it would not install it.
Downloading the firmware to your computer is a whole different thing than transmitting the firmware from your computer to the quad. It's a whole different set of drivers being used and everything else. And I go back to what I'm saying. I think your problem is with your computer. The only way to find out is try it on a different computer. So instead of killing yourself trying to figure out why it's not working, try to at least isolate the neighborhood where it's not working first. So, then at least you know what to focus on.
Well, 3 chords and 2 versions later, I was able to even get this screen.
But it's still not working.
Let me ask you something. When I'm downloading it from the drone itself, from DJI's hardware, on the Go 4 app, right? Where is that downloading to? Because it's downloading from here, and then a yellow thing comes up and it says installing, and you watch it go 1%, 2% to 100%. That's what it did for the remote control. Then when the aircraft came, it sat there at 0 and never upgraded to 770. So where is that firmware now?
Well, it'll be in the cache somewhere on the controller, but they don't have a facility within the software to store that. Every time you go to redo it, it downloads it once again and overwrites it wherever it is in the cache. Mm-hmm. So if you've done it 5 times, you'll have you'll have downloaded it 5 times.
Hey, Michael Blade, did I get you mixed up with Doc Murdoch? With the Autel? I sent him an email asking him about the Autel drone, and I think it was Doc Murdoch that was showing his Autel 6K Pro at that meetup. I know Al turned his back, gave his back.
Well, see, Al's got a big problem. See, he was on a Mac and he just disappeared.
Oh,
he's in the garage. Hey, Neil. So nobody else had any problems this week, huh?
And let me guess, Jim, DJI support has been as bad as useful as a 2-cent condom?
I don't get any answers from them at all.
Yeah, they're hopeless. They're bloody I ended up joining the DJI Software Developers Forum, the program, not because I ever intend to develop any software for them, but it was the only way I could get answers, not from the official DJI guys, but from other developers.
From guys that are trying to, What I don't like is they charge $5,000 a piece for their software development kit, the payload kit, and then the mobile kit. $5,000 a piece.
Yep. Well, I didn't buy the kits. I just joined the program so that I could read the forums.
I didn't know you could do that. That's cool.
Yeah, you can.
I have a question for you, Jim. and everybody here, did anybody have a problem trying to load on to the DJI website to log in your account last week? I did, and I have to admit, I put on Twitter going to DJI support, and I put DJI Global, I put it in. I had a response back from them in probably not even an hour, asking me questions. I gave them the answers, came right back again within a matter of a couple hours. I went to bed, and then they were checking to see and said, we checked into it, check and see if you can log in now. Now, whether that was just my account that I couldn't log into or everybody's, but trying to log into the account, I could not get on no matter, and I tried it on 4 different computers, and the only thing I actually got on was on my phone app.
When you say log in, you're talking about in the Assistant or actually on their website?
On their website into your account.
I haven't tried that recently. I haven't had any. I'm not buying anything from them, so I haven't had any reason to go onto their website.
I'm like Mitch. I never log in. I don't upload my data. I don't sync with them. I log in when I install an app on a new device. I log in the once and then I never touch it again.
Yeah, I've made that mistake of syncing all my logs and all that crap.
Look, it's like I can never remember the name of that company, that website that you belong to, Jim. That it uploads and analyzes your batteries and all of that. I would love to, but call me a conspiracy theorist. I don't trust the government, and I don't trust what information they're going to subpoena, and I don't trust how they're going to use it.
And I agree. I agree.
There you go. There goes the problem. We know it's Jim's computer. He knocked himself completely off. His computer went down.
You just let the smoke out.
DJI did it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's Airdate.
Yeah.
Yep.
Airdate.
If I could get an equivalent to Airdate as a standalone software, I'd pay. I'd love it. But I'm just not putting all that information up there in the cloud.
You can put your information from your drone straight up there without going through DJI.
Yeah, I just don't want it. I don't want it in anybody's online database, and it's not because I do nefarious things. I'm a commercial, and I don't want to lose all that money I've got invested. But which one of us hasn't accidentally, gone that 100 meters further than we should have, flown 20 meters inside a no-fly area accidentally or something like this? And, the day that comes that they want to nobble us for some reason, those little infractions can be used. No, in America, at least you can refuse to incriminate yourself, not here.
That's what I was worried about. I actually had, when I was doing that Wawa, Steve, remember we talked about those guys, that motorcycle club. I actually had it where there's a hell of a lot of power lines. This is in Melbourne. Hell of a lot of power lines going by, and the drone just shot straight. Whoa. Nothing I could do until it stopped, and it actually stopped, and then I turned around. Because on my left was this huge building. I mean, it would have crashed. But I could not control it to what Ari is saying. That log is on here. I should have, I didn't take it off or anything because you know what? It was an accident. It wasn't my fault.
Yeah, well, here, welcome to lovely Australia, the nanny state, mate. The fact that it's not your fault is no excuse.
Yeah, I know. That's like in court. What if you don't know the rule? That doesn't make any difference. What's that called?
Yep. Yeah. Ignorance is no excuse.
There's no excuse.
Yeah.
I have a name for that. I call it the Turkish taxi cab rule. If anybody's ever been to Turkey, you'll know what that means. What happens when you're in Turkey, their attitude is you're an American and you don't belong there. So if you're in a taxi cab and the taxi cab has an accident, it's your fault because you don't belong there. So you're guilty of that accident as a passenger in some other guy's taxi cab, and that's the way their logic works. And when I went over there in the Army, we were briefed on that. We were told that as an official welcome to Turkey briefing that be very careful. And if you ever are in a taxi and a taxi driver hits somebody, just run.
There
Run like hell.
was
Because
a
you're
big
going to end up in a Turkish jail.
something similar, but not quite totally related. We had a big hoo-ha here in Australia last week because somebody went to court and used, and I quote, the Bart Simpson defense. I didn't do it. Nobody saw me, and you can't prove anything.
Let's see if I can find this one. What should I put? Like 50?
Jody, are you talking about the server company?
Yeah.
Yeah.
QNAP.
Yep. That I'm glad I'm not using QNAP. I mean, I don't know whether it's just the company itself or all of their devices are big.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I've got Synology for mine, and but I got a hardware firewall that's blocking me going out, not just software. I have a hardware device on mine. So everything coming up, and it changes I forget how many seconds that it's set for, that it keeps on changing it. Because that device then is going through the fiber servers at the closest connection wherever you're going out from. But the thing that's nice about it is I can pick if I want to go through China, I want to go through Russia, I want to go through the US, I can pick whichever locations, and you can pick which ones you want to go through.
You're not paranoid, Steve. You're only paranoid if they're not actually out to get you. And I run Skynet firewall here, and on average, I get about 10,000 port scans or unauthorized intrusion attempts here a day. And funny, most of the IPs trace back to China, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow, that's ridiculous.
It's all robots. It's all automated shit. It just
of course. Yeah, it is, Mitch. A lot of it. 95% of it. I know the ones who are serious because they'll spend 20 minutes trying to get into my PHP admin on my servers and that sort of thing.
Jesus.
But even they're Chinese. It's crazy. So anybody who's not too technical and wants to secure at home, go get yourself an Asus router or Asus router, and load the WRT DED aftermarket firmware and install Skynet firewall. Definitely worth it.
What's the cost?
That's what I use.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Harry, what
I
was
use
the
that
cost of
AC 2400. It's an 87. AC 87.
Yep. Yeah. I use 3 Asus routers here. I use what's called the AX88, which is quite an expensive one for my main router, for my main gateway. And then I use 2 68Us, similar to the one that Jim uses, as just AI mesh nodes to spread the Wi-Fi over the property. But there's a guy named Merlin, Asus Merlin. If you do a search for him, he has his own web page and GitHub page and all this sort of stuff. And he writes a firmware for Asus, nearly all Asus routers, that is supported by Asus themselves, and it allows you to add lots and lots of aftermarket facilities, if you like, including an aftermarket firewall and ad blockers. I don't get any ads on my home network at all. It's really very well done.
Hey, Mark. Centroid.
Now, Ari, will that work on anybody else's routers?
No.
Only Asus?
No, because I'm not sure. Eric is the guy's name, Merlin. He has a very good relationship with Asus, and they provide him with the source code for their firmware. So he's able to make it perfectly seamless.
But that WRT is available for other servers, right?
Yes, WRT is, but not Merlin.
Right.
Hey, Mark.
Find that one. Is this it?
Howdy, Mark.
Let me see if this is it. Trying to find that one video where the bird took off on me. Even when you go to watch your own videos, damn commercials come up. I can't skip them. It's a video we'll play after this ad.
Just think of it as you paying yourself.
You're not even monetized, are you, Jim?
Yeah, I am.
Oh, okay. I wasn't monetizing my videos because I didn't want people to watch my videos have to watch ads, but then they started putting ads on them anyway. So I said, if they're going to put ads on them, I'm going to monetize them. So I did.
Watch this, Steve. The bird just took off on me. Now, to the left is like a 500-foot tall building, all glass. This bird just took off and went in a straight line.
Which aircraft was this, Jim?
The Inspire 1 V2.
Okay.
And then it stopped.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, oh yeah, this is 2017. But once it stopped, then I was able to get control of it. But look where it is. I crossed highway, power lines, everything.
You didn't have a waypoint put in there by mistake, did you?
No, come on. I didn't.
I never know.
See how tall that building is? That's the one building off to the 192 Geiger Point Park there, Columbus Park.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, I was sitting there and it just flew right over traffic. So if the FAA wanted my ass, they could get me for that one. But there was nothing I could do about it. That was in the days of the original light bridge.
There's Ryan Reynolds. What do you know?
Hey, is
On
that
your
really?
video, Jim, you got stars on your video. How
It's
cool is that?
$15 a month. Is that true?
Jim,
Yeah, Kelly.
Yeah, I went to all my phones, all my connections to it. I can't beat it. You pay for the whole year up front, though. But what is savings? I'm saving about $1,200 a year.
What's up, Kelly?
I got a question for you, or for anybody on the panel. Being relatively new to the drone world, if you were to have a flyaway where the incident happened just like Jim here just showed, are you more apt to get some forgiveness from the FAA if you self-report that, or just take your chances and not say anything at all?
Only if there's damage. If there's any damage involved to property or otherwise, to a person or property, you have to report that within 10 days.
And I get that. I understand that. I'm talking like if there's an incident where, just like in your case, there was no damage, there was nothing, but you go ahead and still self-report it, say, hey, I had this happen to me the other day, just wanted you guys to know about it. And
I wouldn't report that. There's no law that says you have to.
And what are they going to do with that? There's nothing they can do with that information.
Other than showing you that being proactive, I guess.
No, I wouldn't do that at all. I'm not unless there's a law. If you have an accident, you hurt somebody or you cause, I think it's over $500 in damage, you have to report it.
Well, I understand that.
There's no law that says if you fly over a road or people, you have to report it. So don't.
Yeah, similar rule here. Similar, you know, they divide them into. I can't remember the precise wording, but they divide them into serious and non-serious incidents. And in a serious incident, it requires reporting within 48 hours. But that's something where there's, you know, a danger to air traffic or a collision or somebody's hurt. But in a flyaway like Jim just had there, you know, regain control, nothing hurt, get it all back, but you're not required to report.
And mind you that flight was in a air traffic control zone. That was in Class D airspace where I had to get permission from the tower to fly 150 feet.
But you didn't bust that permission, so you didn't break any. You didn't. Now, if that thing climbed up to 2,000 feet, that'd be a different story.
Right.
We'd be sending you soap on a rope.
Oh God.
Here's this little hardware device, this decentralized VPN. That's how small that thing is.
Now what? I use a software VPN. What do you?
This is a decentralized hardware unit.
What does that mean to me?
So what this does, instead of going through software and going to other people's servers, it's going from this and it connects in straight through the centralized server. So this is off the main artery hubs of all the fiber optics server networks that are out there. You can pick the actual logic that you want it to go to, whichever country and nodes you want. And it's just simple, plugs in and out, and then you can set up in there whatever you want in the software. And it's just, they've reduced the size of this thing compared to what they used to be. It used to be about 3 times that size. This is about the size of, for us here in the United States, would have been the old telco little box that you'd see up there for your wires to come in, and you'd put your RJ jack in the bottom. That's about the size of it.
So why, Steve? Why do you need that as opposed instead of a like what I use? I just use the Mozilla Firefox Mozilla VPN. Cost me $5 a month, and
your speed. I've got gigabit speed here for download.
I don't have that anyway. I mean, I have Spectrum cable, shitty speed. I get the same shitty speed. I get exactly the same speed whether I'm going through the VPN or not.
I get worse speed if I go through the VPN.
No, I tested.
That's pretty typical, Jim.
Yeah, exactly.
I go through the Miami server, and my speeds are pretty much the same. But it's a cheap fix. It as far as security goes, it does the same thing, doesn't it?
It's totally different.
Essentially, what Steve's got is a VPN router, if you like. That's putting it very crudely. You enter in your variables which network you want to go, and it does it all for you.
It still goes through your ISP though. It still goes through
for sure. Yep.
First. Yeah.
Correct.
And it's encrypted. It's encrypted from the VPN out. Well, the software VPN does the same thing. It encrypts it. It connects to your ISP, but your ISP doesn't see anything that you're doing. It doesn't.
Well, there's an overhead, Mitch. Always, there's a hardware or resources overhead for you and me. It wouldn't make much sense for me. I'm like you. I don't have a particularly sterling connection. I have a decent one by Australian standards, 100 megabits per second. But I'm not like Steve. I can see, but I don't use a VPN at all because, let's face it. The whole premise behind that sort of thing is we are assuming that the government can't de-encrypt our encrypted streams. Now, you can believe that they can't. Yes, that's right. To me, believing that sort of thing is pretty much like, it's like peeing in your pants. It gives you a warm, fuzzy feeling, but it doesn't really accomplish much.
Well, I'm going to tell you why I use a VPN. I'm not worried about the government spying. I don't do anything that I care if they know about or not. They can come look. I don't care. What I use it for is to stop Google from sending me these ridiculous ads every time I want to go buy something. So now if I go buy something, if I want to research a product on the internet, I use Firefox, I use DuckDuckGo search engine, and I use the VPN, and nobody anywhere has a record of the fact that I'm trying to find a studded jockstrap or something like that.
So now you only get untargeted ads instead of targeted ads.
Right.
Well, then I have an ad blocker for that. So I don't get, my ads, when I started doing it this way, all this ridiculous advertising that now I can't stop the ads that are on the websites themselves because that's the way it is. But it has stopped all of that crap, and it's also cut my email. Believe it or not, I get almost no junk email now because my email address isn't getting spread all over the world through these different websites and things that I'm visiting. So I don't know. It seems to work for $5 a month. I figure why not?
I accomplished that by running my own email servers, so I can configure them as I want. And going back to the Asus router with the custom firmware, you can also get pretty damn good ad blockers on there as well. So,
and what, Ari? Asus also comes with blocking antivirus software.
Yes, I don't use it, but it does.
I use it.
The other thing they have is AI mesh. So if you've got an old Asus router, you buy yourself a new one, you can stick the old one anywhere you like around your property, either run it wired or wireless, and you can turn it into a mesh node. And, so really it gives you many years usage out of your old Asus routers. I'm not saying that Asus are the best. If I was still doing it for a living, I'd probably be using a Cisco or something like that. But for a Soho, small office or home environment, they are really good.
I remember Asus when they didn't make computers. When I was in the computer business 30 years ago, and we started building. Asus was the manufacturer of most of the parts that went into most of the computers in the world.
Yep. And then
Nobody-
MSI jumped on it.
Yeah, and nobody knew who Asus was, but they were primarily a component manufacturer, mostly motherboards.
And the thing about this, though, it knocks off all the ads coming in because it's targeting it all over, and you can set the rate that you want it to switch. That's the biggest thing, is it gets rid of the ads, and it stops and protects me from my server. That's my biggest thing, is the backup of the server.
Let me ask you a question. Like when I go on, I use RA4W as a VPN. When I go on there, I have to pick which country and which site I want to be in. Do you do that too? Or do you have automatic?
It comes already configured. And if you go through, you can pick the fastest systems. So you can test out the different systems that you want to use in what countries and go onto those nodes. Because it's using actually onto the fiber-based node in those locations. It's not going through other servers and, you know, carrying it on through your internet provider and then going to somebody who's up like ExpressVPN or whatever. I mean, I've tried 4 different companies trying to test them out. And even if I was on my old system, which was 300 down and 10 up, the best could get out of it on anything would be probably about 70 down with the VPN on. I mean, it would knock it down that substantial. I put this on, and I'm getting almost 3/4 of that speed. So I'm, instead of getting 900, I'm maybe still running 600 because I'm going directly to that point of making the connection.
It's nice if you've got that kind of speed to start with. Unfortunately, we don't have it here.
We get 100 down, 10 up, and that's if you're lucky.
They actually raised mine to 200 down, Jim.
I just did it. It was 200 down the other day, but now it's back to 100 down.
Well, that's because it's you.
It's your neighbor. You didn't know your neighbor works for your cable company.
No, your neighbor's got this 10-foot tall parabolic antenna in his kitchen aimed at your house.
I heard that.
Jamming everything that you do, Jim.
Well, they keep adding more houses onto the line. My power line and my cable line was only 69 people, but now with all the building they got going on. Now, I did this the other day, and this thing shot up to almost 200. But now it's back at, I think we got, what did we see, 90 before? This is mine.
Well, but you're streaming now, too. So you're using so much of your bandwidth for streaming at this time.
And you're going the busiest time of night.
Yeah, plus the time of day can affect it.
When you're streaming, that speed test has to share your bandwidth with all the other crap you're doing right now.
Well, plus certain times of the day too.
Yeah, you see how your upload speed is cut in half because you're using all your upload now for your internet use, for your YouTube use.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only time do a speed test when you're not doing anything else.
And I've got that splitter. I've got that something TP-Link splitter sitting here. So I've got one to the TV and one hardwired to the TV and to the computer. And they both get different speeds. Believe it or not.
Yeah, I believe it. Jim, I'm going to bug out. So good to see you. And give me a call if you want to bring your drone over here. But I would try your wife's computer first and see what happens.
You really think it's a computer, huh?
It's a 50-50 shot. It's either the computer or something on that side of the USB cable, or it's the drone or something on that side of the USB cable. So change half the equation and see what happens.
How many USB-C cables do you have?
I have most of mine that I have work. It's not the cable. I leave. There's a cable I just leave plugged into the front of my computer, a USB-C cable that I know is works everywhere. And I just leave it in my computer. And whenever I have to do anything that involves a drone with a USB-C cable or a GoPro or any device, I know when I plug that cable in to the USB 2.0 port, it's going to work. It's not going to be the cable. You just got to be careful. Some of these cables that come with these cheap gadgets are charge-only cables. They're designed.
Yep, they're crap.
Only to charge, and they have no data connection in them. And there's some of them that may have a data connection, but the cable is so cheap, the impedance is so bad that sometimes they just crap out halfway in the middle of something. So when you find yourself a USB-C cable, and usually they're going to be the ones that they're stiffer and heavier.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. When you find one of them that works good, put some red tape around it or something, so you know that's the cable.
I've got the one from Blackmagic Design, which worked perfectly.
Yeah. Most of the stuff that comes with, the stuff that comes with the DJI drones always works. They're good cables. So there's plenty of good cables around. All right, buddy. I will see you next time. Give me a call if you want my
Yeah. I'm going to wind up calling you.
All right.
Hey.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good
night, Mitch.
Who is this? Whose speed is
This
this?
is me.
What is your maximum up on a good day?
The maximum upload is 440, and the maximum download is 940, and that's running through the decentralized VPN.
Yeah, we never get more than
And that's running for us here because we're at 4 minutes after 6 in the evening. So this is coming on prime time for everybody coming home and turning on their TVs, and everybody that cut the cables are now running everything over the internet.
Well, I cut the cord in 2014, and it's getting awful popular now, so they're starting to raise prices.
Yeah, now this is copper. This is not on fiber. So this is actual copper speeds.
Mine's a cable.
That's what I'm saying.
Cable I've had for 30 years.
Now, the new developments over next to the project that I'm working on, they've got fiber directly into all those apartments there. You can truly get gigabit, 940 up, 940 down, if you want to pay for it.
Jody, what are you running over there, man? I know he's got servers and VPNs and all kinds of crap going on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're ever going to get fiber because they would have done that. With all the new building that they're doing, and they're replacing
they take it to the new buildings. They're not taking it to the old ones. That's the problem.
Yeah. And
they went right by us, except for the building. The junction box is in our easement right away, right at the front. So now I just have to bring, when we do the remodel, is bring conduits from the front junction boxes and to bring it up on the side. I just have to decide if we want to go to here, which is AT&T, which has their high-speed internet, or Cox, whichever the tenants want.
I found this out the hard way. When we had a hurricane, a tree came and took down the power off the house.
Mm-hmm.
The pole ripped from the house. I'm responsible for that.
Mm-hmm.
From the house to the pole is my friggin' problem. I did not know that. That cost a bundle. You got to get an electrician.
It depends on where you're at.
Water line too.
You got to get an electrician, a city inspector, permit to do it. All this shit.
That holds true with your water line coming out of your house to the main. You're responsible for that too.
And here, because most of it used to be well water, here they charge $5,000 to install the city water valve, not to your house, just to the front of the house, the pipe. It's a racket, man, because you still have your taxes.
They don't force you guys to get on city water?
Not yet.
Yeah, because some places they kind of force you to after so much development.
They call it a special.
Yeah.
And I've lived in a couple neighborhoods that had Verizon Fios, and there was only so many connections in the neighborhood, and I called Verizon and wanted to get service through them, and they were like, we don't have any more connections available. in your neighborhood.
Really?
They
It was an
couldn't-
older neighborhood, but yeah.
How
Yeah.
difficult would it be hard to add more connections?
Yeah.
I don't know. It was an older neighborhood, but they told me that they only had so many available in my neighborhood,
Mhm.
and they were all taken up by other people already.
That's like Oz by drone. What's his name? Greg? He
Yeah.
said that the fiber is about 100. What do you say, Steve? 100 yards from his house?
A little over. No, it's not. It's like not. It's like less than a quarter of a mile.
And he can't hook up to it.
Yeah. Well, Jim, I got to back out of here. I just wanted to hop on real quick while I had a break here and I was home, and I got to get some other stuff done for work tomorrow. So thanks for allowing
Take
me
care,
in,
Steve.
and good to see you guys, gentlemen, and everybody in chat. Have a great rest of your night.
You too, buddy.
Take care, Steve.
I'll be listening. Bye-bye.
Ari, how you been, man? Because I know you had your computer apart.
Yeah, no, I had the whole room apart. Yeah, look, everything's all set up here as best as I can in the space that I've got. I'd like to do more, but I'm in my bedroom these days, and that's it. And I'm probably going to disappear again shortly for a period of time. I've got some more surgery coming up. I got out of bed, which is why at first I was just chatting, and then I came on. I got out of bed and turned the computer on. Had to make the bed, so we looked respectable for you.
Why? Matt
So, yeah.
doesn't. Matt doesn't make the bed.
Yeah, I know, but that's Matt. No excuses for him.
There's your bed.
Yep. Oh, but the motorcycle helmet, though, that's the good thing,
What's your
Hey,
weather
Jim.
like, Kelly?
What's that?
Yeah, Justin. What's your weather like? You're in North Dakota, right?
Yeah. Really, right now the weather's been really nice. It's been mid 70s to upper 70s for the last few days. The evenings have been a little windy, but man, before I came to work today, I was on the river for 3 days in a row fishing. It was gorgeous.
Cool. What's up, Justin?
I was going to say, did you see what Dan was doing with that Vector robot?
Vector robot? No.
Yeah, it's the robot that I sold him. It's only like this big. It's just a little tiny thing, but it's like super advanced, and he's trying to reprogram it to fly a drone.
Well, it
Because-
can't fly it any worse than he does. He's
But the company went under a couple of years ago, and then they sold it to another company, and they offered a way out where you could opt out of their server and put your robot on your own server, and you can open source it and reprogram it. But the robot's super advanced, and it's only about the size, I don't know, about half the size of a tennis shoe. It's pretty small. It's actually about the size of your mouse on your computer.
It's incredible what they can do with some of them, and how hold on, got to clear my throat, guys.
I'm really interested in what they're doing with Raspberry Pi 4.
That's what you use to reprogram Vector.
It's amazing how many good pieces of equipment get depreciated. The other thing that, if you've got them, you can sell them all day long, are the chuck units that used to control these Parrot discos. They've been out of production for years, but they can literally fly a Cessna. And the drones are all dying and the wings are getting ripped off, but there's a good black market going on the chuck unit themselves.
I don't know what a chuck unit is.
It is the flight controller computer that they used to have in these Parrot discos. Well, actually, they still have them in the agricultural version if you want to pay 15 grand for them.
Yeah, I know.
But they have Parrot's own proprietary software on them, but you can also load them with Arduino Pilot and they're amazingly capable. Considering I have a feeling that when Parrot originally made them, they had way bigger plans for them further on down the track, but they just thought that they'd make it once and get it done. But the sales of the Parrot ended about 2.5 years ago, and that was that.
Where have they been? Unique dropped off the planet. Parrot dropped off the planet. Because I like that Unique had that 920 out where you could put your own camera underneath. It was like the same as a GH4 at the time. It was what do they call 6 blades? Not an octocopter.
Octo.
It still
Hexa.
is an octo? Hexa? Yeah, they had that 920. And Hell, I even liked the GoPro idea, where you could take the gimbal off the drone, and now you've got an Osmo Pro sitting there.
Yep.
They should have never ran away from that.
Parrot is still big, but they've just dropped out of the consumer market altogether, and they're only working in the agricultural and military now.
That's an American company too, isn't it?
No,
French.
Because I know a lot of the American companies, they seem to be more focused on military and like big contracts like that versus making regular public drones for the public.
I think that unless you've got the kind of low overhead costs that they have in China and Asia, trying to be competitive is a really tall call. I mean, the best of the American companies would probably be Skydio, and they can't get manufacture up to anything like the level that they really need to be totally viable.
Even they went industrial because, well, what do you want to call it? An enterprise?
Yep.
They're trying to sell to that enterprise level and the government. Then you got Watts Aviation. That thing is 25 grand. Are you kidding me? 5,000 down, 25,000. No, come on, man.
Well, think about an American company. It's easy. They just get a big old fat check from the government, and they say, "Here, build us something." Yeah. And it's not their own money they're having to risk.
And the tax cuts. Let's not forget about the tax.
That's not such a bad thing though, if it keeps development at least out of Asia. Oh, look, I'll say it, out of China. But then of course we've got the other side. They can develop whatever they want, in the US or France or whatever. But it's still all made with electronics that are sourced from China anyway. So where can you win?
I mean, everything can't be from America.
I mean, if there was an American company that did it like DJI, I wouldn't buy DJI.
Right.
That's the only reason I buy DJI.
I
buy DJI because
I hate supporting a Chinese company.
Well, I don't know whether it makes it into the news in the US, but China don't like Australia very much currently, and all of my drones are Chinese. I realize I used to fly in military aviation areas. I don't anymore. Those days are gone. So I'm not really doing anything that China wants to look at, thank God. But yeah, I'd still feel happier if not everything dialed home to Shenzhen.
Now, which one of Dan's are you talking about, Justin? Because I see Anti-Vector.
Yeah, that's the robot I sold him and shipped to him a couple weeks ago.
See, it's got a 30-second non-skippable. Okay, there, it's skippable.
But it is a super intelligent robot. And when I bought it, it was only worth like a couple $100, and then it went up in price, and now they're going for $500 or $600. And it's a super intelligent robot. You can play the sound. There's no music on it.
Oh, okay. Is this thing even made anymore? I remember that thing.
The company made a new version, Vector 2.0, I think they're calling it, or 2. But this original one, they allowed you to open source the programming on it.
And that's the thing with that other company, Auterion. They're doing all open source, but it's also expensive.
But this guy is literally the size of your mouse.
I've seen them. They were really popular at the time.
I remember that.
But see, what happened was... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, boy. Vector officially scares the shit out of me, okay? So last night, I was up until 5:30 this morning, untapping some of his potentials, building a custom server, a temporary custom server for him to operate on. And what's interesting to me is how quickly he adapted to the server that I put him on and how fast his learning curve is. And I'm going to...
When he says that, Ari, is he making a separate SSH on his computer?
I wasn't listening enough. I was trying to figure out which one was the robot.
He said he made a separate server
scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Because
whatever the communication protocol is, I have no idea.
But that robot will literally look at stuff, scan the internet, and figure out what it's looking at.
Oh,
It
regular
has
AI.
facial recognition and everything.
And they were first marketed, as a learning aid for young people, and they're very hard to get out here in Australia because by the time they basically hit the shelves, they'd stop making them.
But what scared Dan was he was holding his drone in his hand, and it looked at the drone and said, "Dan, drone." Like it figured out what he was holding in his hand. Like this thing will look at stuff, scan the internet, and try to find the closest match to what it's looking at, and then it will tell you. And it will also scan your face and remember who you are.
That facial recognition, I mean, Facebook uses that already. That's how they can tell you. They'll tell you what pictures you're in. That's scary shit for the future.
Of course.
And this robot is mean as hell, too. If you try to pick him up, he'll get really pissed off.
Well, it's smart if when you point the 45 at it, it goes, okay, whatever you want, whatever you want.
I wonder what it would say, because it knows a gun. If it's using the internet, right, it knows a gun is danger.
Well, if I point a 45 at you, what I expect you to say is, you're the man, you're the boss.
Look, he might tell you to back off or he's going to drain your bank account.
Yeah, that's true. Well, he's welcome to what he gets.
He just destroys everything on your online.
Some gun guy, yeah. Chinese food. Hey, Mike. I remember them when they first came out. How many years ago was that? Was that 10 years?
I don't think it was that long, but 5.
Because, you can do a lot of this. Larry, you know about the NVIDIA Jetson, right?
Yep.
And there's if you watch NVIDIA's channels, there's videos that they make the videos showing you how to put the CV and connect it to the drone. Now, DJI sells their own NVIDIA Jetson. They call it a manifold that'll sit on top of your drone. You program the goddamn thing.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they call it a manifold. Hey, let me see if I can get it up for you. But the NVIDIA Jetson, it's now in stage 2. They run their own channel on how to open source program it.
And the reason I know that this thing would be able to do a drone is because it used to control my my robot, like vacuum and mops and all that. It would turn them on and tell them to go vacuum. It would tell my mops to go to mop the floors. It could turn my Xbox off and on, my TV, because it also has an Alexa built into it as well.
Can it get the wife to make a sandwich?
Shit. If you could replace a woman, we'd be all be happy.
You just need a couple missing ribs for that.
Right.
See, now, I guess the Xavier is a smaller one, because look at that sucker. I don't want to put it on because that's not the NVIDIA channel. But this is the NVIDIA developer channel. And they'll sit there. This thing's got HDMI, all these ports on it. It's a little developer kit. You could put it on your first-person drone. And that is exactly what the DJI manifold is that sits up on top of the drone. So in other words, if you're running your own cameras, you can tell it to do facial recognition. It does machine learning and AI learning. Google uses it now, and they're using it. Oh, see, he put it on a car.
And in 10 years, that thing will be half the size of that.
And 5 times as powerful.
Exactly.
Google sits there now and reads your thumbnails. Are you smiling? 10%. What are the words that are on the thumbnail? It's all getting done by Google AI.
Oh, somebody did an experiment with the iPhones the other day with an infrared camera, and you can actually see the camera on the iPhones flashing every 5 seconds, reading your face.
Damn.
But you can only see it with the infrared camera.
Now they have infrared cameras. They're cheap, right? They're not perfect. They're not high quality, but they work with the Arduino and the Pi, the Google Pi. Not Google Pi. What is the Pi? The Pi, open source Pi software. It's not Google Pi. I don't remember now. Damn, I don't remember. That's annoying. Yeah, they've got them. Okay, this is also under Google Developer. They've got it reading the red line or the line on the street. I don't think NVIDIA is going to get pissed at me here. They're basically pushing their product, right?
I'm Chris Anderson. By day, I run a robotics company, 3DR, but in fun,
oh, he runs 3DR.
Thomas Car Racing League called DIY Robocars, and we are at a hacking space, co-working space called Circuit Launch in Oakland, California, where we're having one of our quarterly race hack days. What I love about it is that it is kids, it is Silicon Valley engineers, it is retirees, it's people who aren't engineers at all. So this event is an opportunity for our community to show their stuff. And these are small size and autonomous cars using various different techniques. And the history of car innovation has always been through racing. But by shrinking the cars down,
end-to-end convolution net, the only exception is we multiply the speed.
So the races start with time trials. So the cars on the track at the same time. And at the end, we get all the cars on the track at the same time for what is more of a demolition derby than a...
You know what ticks me off? I can't get my own granddaughter interested in this crap.
Tell me about it, Jim. I got kids and foster kids, and I can't get any of them interested. I got three of them. 3 of my kids have got commercial drone pilots licenses now, and do you think I can get any of them to come out and actually fly with me if they've got to get up before 10 a.m.?
What? I don't understand it. She's like, okay, it goes up, it takes a picture. Oh, now what? Now, you know, she's 12. She's pushing 13.
Hey, Mike.
And at that age, I was playing with Estes rockets and trying to put cameras on them. Remember those? Oh, man, that was in the 60s. We had crap. Yeah.
My son's in robotics classes, and he's only in 6th grade. But he's also in advanced classes. He's a little bit ahead of most kids his age.
We don't have that here.
He had to go to a certain middle school because they were the only ones that provided the advanced classes. And one of his classes was robotics.
Raspberry Pi. Thank you, Tomas. Yes. It's a damn Raspberry Pi 4. And you can hook that up to anything now. They've got basic little crap lepton FLIR sensors, but they're not FLIR. They're garbage. But they're $25. You know what I mean? And you're hooking up to a Raspberry Pi, putting it onto a race car or a Tiny Hawk drone. Something small.
You can get them to run anything now, Jim, you know?
Yeah.
Anything from your 3D printers to your car.
That you're exactly right, because Mike Lane is in the process of hooking up Octopi, so he has a camera looking at his 3D printer, which he can see on his phone while he's at work. Is the printer still printing, or did it screw up?
Oh, yeah, I saw a guy that had some kind of Raspberry Pi kit for his printer the other day online, and he was talking about how he was trying to figure out how to hook it up because he had never done it before. But he had this whole kit that he bought online with it came with everything in it.
They've come a long way, man. They really have.
And the beauty of it is that, you know, it is within the reach of anybody who's just got a little bit of an inquiring mind. You don't have to be a software developer or an engineer. As long as you can RTFM, you know, and spend a little time, you can do it yourself.
All the I was going to say paperwork, but all the manuals are there, and they're all in these GitHub groups.
Yep.
And it's just guys like you and me telling each other what they tried and what worked, what didn't work.
And I love that because you can start off with something, and when you're finished, you know, as drone people, the one that springs to mind, going back to those Parrot discos, if you don't know what they are, then go look them up. They're just a little flying wing, and when they originally came out, they had a range of about 750 meters, and they got a 1080p camera in them. Well, go and have a look at Dustin Dunhill's channel.
Right.
He does some amazing flights.
Like he started off with one of those when they first came out. and then he started with battery modifications for extra.
Was he the one trying
range.
to go to the different islands with it?
Yeah, he did. Look, in the end, he did battery mods, and then he unlocked the software so that you could get outside of the range, the locked-in range. And then they were doing 4G modifications to them so that, he was flying this thing 50, 60 miles and staying in contact through the 4G network. And as far as I'm aware now, the world record flight for one of these things is something like a 180-mile flight.
I think he did more than that because he lost one. I remember
he lost one very early. He programmed a waypoint mission too close to the cliffs on one of the islands, and he thinks that it hit the cliff. But the most he's done is about 60, 70 miles. But on the extreme groups, but you're loading it down with such a big battery that it's extremely hard to even get it into the air.
Let me ask you, how does that fall under the guidelines of the FAA and normal drone rules?
Illegal as hell. I have no idea how he gets away with it, but he does it all the time. I mean, in the last 3 months alone, he's done 3 range tests on various drones so far out that he's had to emergency land them and go drive and find them.
If you want to get technical, it's like Ari just said.
Yeah, one of the 4G LT ones that I watched him do, he went, I think, 25 miles. He went to a complete other island and then came back.
Yeah, none of that's line of sight.
But on the other hand, let's look at the other side. I mean, where he does it, his usual flight spot is off the side of a mountain on whichever island it is that he lives. When you see his aircraft flying, there's nothing underneath it but just miles and miles of open land, or he flies over the ocean. It's not a flight corridor because it's right up next to the mountain. He's not harming anybody, but one of these days you can bet some petty little arsehole is going to make a formal complaint, and then the FAA will be obliged to follow it up.
I could see where if he's going to be flying that thing out into the ocean, he could probably get out above international waters where the FAA.
That's 14 miles.
Yeah, I know it's a long way, but I mean, if he's doing that kind of miles on extreme flights. Maybe that's
aviation law is like maritime law. You're controlled by the law of the country of origin.
Where you originate. Yeah.
I thought it was 12 miles off the coast.
And drone shots, 5G won't be as good as 4G. 5G is bigger bandwidth, shorter range.
Less distance, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're connecting, I thought the idea was you're connecting with each other.
Well, if you notice anywhere that they've enabled for 5G, they use the node module. Like 4G, you have 4G is nodes as well, but you have your one centralized tower covers 40 square miles, 50 square miles. With 5G, it's not unusual to see a node every second street.
Oh shit!
Because it's a shorter bandwidth, right?
Yep, it's higher frequency.
You have to have more antennas in between each one.
Well, bottom line is the higher you go in frequency, the less effective it is at penetrating obstacles and terrain. So we all know this from drones. If your drone can run on 2.4 gig or 5.8, if you're running it on 5.8, you can get a better video feed. You can go to 1080 and so forth. But as soon as you get behind that line of trees, it'll auto switch back to 2.4.
Right, the range isn't nearly as good.
And if you're looking at people who do a lot of really, really, it's dying out of popularity now with consumer off-the-shelf drones. But if you go back, say, 10 years when people were brewing their own autonomous drones or long-distance drones, 900 megs, was the happy frequency for them because it was a good cross between able to penetrate and carry over distance.
In fact, my RTK module to the Matrice is a 900 megahertz signal because it's not flying the drone. Yep. It's just reporting its latitude and longitude. I was trying to find here. Okay, I watched one the other day that was using the air current. It was obviously a wing. It was using the air current. It would use the battery to go up, then shut the propeller off and be able to swing around and do all this crap and not use any battery, they had over an hour and a half flight on an 1860 battery, 1865 battery.
It's amazing.
18650.
Even going back again to them, even the discos. I mean, the original battery on those things was, I think it was 2600 milliamp hour, and they were getting 50 minutes, out of that, because the engine would throttle depending on lift of the wing. I mean, if you want distance, wing is to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Dustin Dunhill, I think he was getting like an hour and a half out of his batteries.
They're using about an 8 amp. He's gone through several iterations. First, he just started getting larger radio control batteries and cutting out. Then they started making them out of 16850 cells, and a couple of companies started making them. Thanks for that, Tom. Yeah, Thomas has just said to us that FPV Crossfire is using 968 megs, and that would explain why it gets such a good feed.
Yeah. This is a NASA video on augmented reality. Now, they say that they're only worried about flight in space, but look what they're using. Using a drone. So I guess the idea if it sees another drone, it will avoid it.
I wonder how much NASA spent on those goggles he's wearing.
Well, that's a DJI S1000.
Well, I'm sure they modified those.
Yeah, oh yeah. All this crap's getting done right under our noses.
Incredible, isn't it?
Yes.
And we can all comfort ourselves by knowing that, no matter how altruistic and good-hearted and well-meaning these private guys are who develop these technologies, the government's going to turn it against us sooner or later. Sorry, do I sound a bit jaded?
No, because it's true. You know damn well they're going to turn around and make Prime Airlines for Amazon Prime. They're going to make, okay, I'm going to be delivering this, and this today. So now Jim's going to have a no-fly zone in that drone's path. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but
that's what they call unmanned traffic management.
But as much as Amazon delivers, it's going to be every day.
Right.
They're going to have those same flight paths every single day.
I've already got it. Australia, we had Wing Aviation operating here. We were the first country in the world. They did testing here in my area. Then they moved down to Canberra, the national capital, and got it off the ground there. And now they're back here. Their operations base is about 2.5 kilometres from me to the southwest. And they fly over my house every day, dropping off hardware and pizzas and whatnot to the neighbours. Now, I've got an agreement in place with CASA because my street backs onto a very large, thousands and thousands of acres of bushland. So I test. And I rang up Mark Lewis, who is the head of drone enforcement here in Australia. And I said, this is what I'm doing, Mark, and this is the safety procedures I've got in place. And he said, yep, no worries, that meets our needs. And I've been doing it ever since. But now Wing are flying over my house. I can't get any clarification on who is going to be at fault if there's a collision. I love it.
Well, they're going to look as you as less of a priority, I guarantee you.
Yes, yes.
Of course they are.
And they're going to side with the company.
And one thing that I haven't heard any comment about it. Maybe it's because I'm a commercial operator and I get emails from CASA and this sort of thing that the average drone pilot here doesn't get. I don't know. But only last week I received an email stating that in the last budget, the government has allocated X billions of dollars to develop an air traffic control system for drones. So I read that as being the Australian equivalent of LANC.
Yeah.
This is my thing with Amazon delivering, though, is I don't think that they're going to be able to deliver every package by drone, because what are they going to do? Be dropping people's packages in the middle of the front yard by the road? Because they're not
do it
going
in
to
a apartment building.
Oh, they drop it in your backyard here. You can choose.
So what I'm thinking is, if it's probably going to be maybe an option of if you're home and they say they're delivering it, you almost have to like have your phone outside with you waiting for it as like a beacon to the drone, hey, that they're home.
To approve it, right?
Because here there's too much package thieves for them to just be dropping them out of the air, because if people see those drones, they're going to follow them.
Exactly.
Well, the way it works out here is they're not, for a start, you know, you can have fast food, you know, basic toiletries. Hardware is one of the things they can drop to you. You pull out your Wing Aviation app and you order what you want. You actually have to manually disconnect it. The drone flies in at about 200 feet, descends to about 60 feet, and drops it on a zip line. Right. You actually have to walk down and unclip it from the zip line. It doesn't automatically drop it. So, you know, but to be honest, unless they expand what you can get, and then you'd need really big drones. The drones they're using now are big enough. I can tell you they've got 8 lift motors and 2 motors for forward movement. I'm not sure that it's going to be anything more than an interesting novelty. I don't know whether it'll actually be viable economically in the long run, but I suppose they've got to try.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're delivering little cheap stuff with $1,000 drones. Like, are you going to take the chance of wrecking a $20,000 drone for $2 worth of toilet paper? Delivering it to somebody, because that could happen.
You know what I say, Mike Kenny? What happens to the guys who are already stealing packages now? They don't give a damn it's taking a picture. What if I see that drone, throw a hoodie mask? Why don't I just use a mask that they say is going to stop corona? Put that on. When I see the drone and it's dropping the product, I grab the line, bring the drone down, wrap it with tin foil, and steal it.
Well, you know, if you want it that badly, Jim, you don't even have to wait where it's being delivered to. Just buy a shotgun.
Well, I don't want to destroy it. I just want to steal it. That's how people are. People will do that.
Oh, yeah. They'll steal those drones with no idea even what to do with it.
Right.
They'll just see money. They'll say, oh, a drone.
And you're wrapping it in tinfoil so that the GPS isn't reporting back to the company. I just don't see any upside. Now, we've all seen the model of their drones. Like you said, 4 little propellers on each side and 2 to push forward.
Correct.
What would the weight capacity be?
They don't actually say. They limit what you can load into your basket. And you know, they've got a couple of little stubby wingettes on them. I doubt that they provide much in the way of lift, unless these things are traveling at 200 kilometers an hour, which they're not, of course. Right. I'll take a stab at it, Jim. 2 kilos, you know, 5 pound.
You really think that much?
Yeah, they're pretty big. They're pretty big.
Think about how much can a what was I going to say? An Inspire 2, how much can that lift?
Exactly. About 3.5 kilos safely. More if you want to push it. But, you know, on the tests I've seen with the Inspire using drop mechanisms, you can lift 3.5 kilos, which is, you know, that's 10 pound or so safely with an Inspire.
That's all up. And you're talking about, like, the Matrice has 17-inch blades, and only 4 of them. So when one dies, so does the whole drone.
That's what the official DJI's official rated capacity, Jim. Obviously, that's somewhat less. I've seen tests, you know, where people have tested them to the destruction. You can lift about 10 pound with an Inspire 1 version 2, and I think you get about 6 or 7 minutes of airtime. That's it.
6 or 7 minutes.
Yeah.
That's not going to work out with the way they have their right now. They have their they're building another one in Cocoa, Florida. The way they have their warehouses spread out, they'd have to build a ton of new warehouses to be able to deliver within 5 miles of you.
And why I don't think it's viable is because, you know, a standard drone for a company like that's probably going to be at least $10,000, $15,000. So how much cheap shit do they have to deliver to make that money back for that drone, and then plus some maintenance along the way?
I'm with you. I think what it's about currently, I don't think it's at all about making a profit. I think it's about staking a claim on the airspace for the commercials. You know, they're not sure what they're going to do with it right now, but what they want to do is own it.
So yeah, I think Eric makes a very good point there. can't imagine this being viable. And I think, they just want to stake a claim.
I mean,
Right.
you could have an entire infrastructure built for this, but it would take a lot, like
Now
special
that's the aircraft.
mailboxes.
That's the aircraft we have here.
Now, if
That's
you
the
have
one I'm talking about. That you can
That one there.
grab the line, bring the drone down.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, if they had like special mailboxes that they put in neighborhoods that these drones could drop down and land on them and drop the packages in like a lockbox or something like that, then I could see it kind of being a little bit more viable.
That has been trialed also.
I just don't understand how you're going to deliver to an apartment building. I don't think you can.
Not currently.
Or even like what they're showing here, it's pretty wide open, not a lot of tall trees.
Or power lines, right.
There's no way that thing could deliver a package to my house. I have 80-foot trees around my house.
They do. They do. Seriously, they are successfully doing it here. They approach at 200 feet and they have downward pointing sensors. They descend vertically till they reach the point. And as far as I am aware, there has only been one. I'm not going to say reported because it wasn't reported. They try and hush it up. But there's only been one reported case of one of these drones coming down. And that was due to a collision with a bird strike, and it came down over a major highway.
And that drone looks like it would cost like $20,000-$30,000. Like that does not look like a $10,000 drone.
They've invested a lot of money in these things. Now, how wide is that delivery area?
I think that they're delivering about 5 kilometers from in a circle from their operations base. So it's like 40 or 50 square miles per operations base.
So that's the key. This is only really happening where there's an operations base.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like a lot of money to us, but companies like Amazon, Walmart, they can afford this research. Like, it's not really breaking their bank. We're talking about trillions of dollars every couple of years between these two companies.
Well, what they're actually, as I said before, what I think they're actually buying with this is the airspace.
Well, they're an IPP partner.
Yeah, they're dealing with our federal management, in US FAA here, CASA. They're paying the big money to get permits that I can't get, even as a commercial, and they're locking in that airspace. Even if they continue to make a loss for the next 5 years, eventually they're going to figure out something that they can do with that airspace that will make them money, and they'll own it by default.
Now, are these drones that are flying over there in your area that are delivering, are there's actual pilots behind the controls?
They have pilots monitoring the displays at the operations center. I'm not sure how many, I'm sure it's not 1-to-1. I'm sure it's not one pilot per aircraft. I'm not sure how many aircraft each pilot is monitoring, but they do claim at least that they have oversight by live pilots.
See, because I heard that Amazon wanted to start hiring 107 pilots next year. And the way they were going to do it is you would be piloting your own drone, but you would only take control if necessary. Like, you would have the controls there, almost kind of like a military.
Look at this one. Look at that one into the car.
Yeah.
Is that a Phantom 4?
It looks like it.
It's a Phantom something.
Let's see if I can stop it in time. Are you telling me a Phantom did that?
No, let's go back a couple of frames, Jim. It's almost like something hits it before the drone does.
Yeah.
It actually goes inside the car.
The package.
Yeah, it's a package.
The package did it.
It looks like the package was a Bessa brick. I actually reached out to Wing here. It looks like a car battery. It's a car battery.
It's a car battery.
That's a beat up. I reached out to Wing here basically out of curiosity. I didn't want a job. I just said, hey, I live only 3 miles from your operations center. I'm an REPL. I've got my, I've got this, that, and the other. And the answer that came back was, yeah, not really interested. Don't need you.
Well, see, you got, by you and in Africa, the Zipline's been testing for how many years now?
God knows.
Yeah.
Probably depends on what country you're in, though. I could see in the U.S. them wanting a pilot behind each drone. I think you'd be in like this big command center type thing where you would be sitting at maybe kind of like a station, and you would just be monitoring it, but you would have like a joystick to take control if necessary.
You would have to. Yeah.
Interestingly enough, Australia is more restrictive than the US. We're allowed far less here than you are. Interestingly enough, in the last round of legislative changes to the to CASR 101, which is the act that covers drones here, they did announce that they were bringing in a framework where under some circumstances you could control more than one drone. Up until now, it has been one operator, one drone. Didn't matter who you are. They're relaxing that out here now to allow you to control more than one per person. So who knows?
I don't understand, because you're delivering to two different areas, right?
I'm not sure that I follow.
If you can't control more than one drone, because each drone is delivering to a different area.
But you could, like, say you were sitting in front of a command center, though, and you had a split screen of 4 different drones.
Right.
Yep.
You would be able to switch your controls to whatever drone you needed to.
Exactly, because they're working. Yeah, they're working on the premise that if you're controlling, let's say 4, the odds of more than one of those 4 needing your input at any given time is low. And they've performed tens of thousands of flights now that didn't require any manual input. And I can see the logic for allowing more than one drone. Like, let's look at swarm technology. That's a big thing, or it's becoming a big thing. So you definitely need to allow within the legislation people to control more than one drone for that.
I think people just aren't ready for total autonomous yet. Eventually it will get there, though. Eventually Tesla will be driving by itself on the road, and you won't even have a steering wheel in the car. It will just be, the technology will be that good.
I can't see people agreeing to that. I mean, I'll let the car drive, but I want to have a steering wheel.
But I give it another 10, 15 years, though, and I think the technology will be so advanced at that point that
you could be right. I mean, these days
it would be safer, because most crashes are caused by human error. Most traffic backups are caused by human error. If every car is talking to each other and they're moving at a steady pace, you'll never have traffic jams and shit again. A lot of traffic jams are caused by people going in and out of lanes, going different speeds, stopping, going.
On the other side of that, airliners have been flying the vast majority of their route under autopilot for 30 years. But they still require a manual landing. Well, actually, not even that. A lot of them now land on a flight path, but they still require pilots. And I think
I'm talking 15 years from now.
I think we're always going to see some sort of override facility, even if it's simply throw a switch and it pulls over to the side of the road and stops. Right. There's always going to be some sort of manual override ability, I think.
Or it might be like that iRobot movie where he pushes a button and the steering wheel pops out of the dash. Like, it's never there until you absolutely need it.
Yeah. I'd want that.
Yeah, I would too. I'm not letting, because we've already seen accidents happen.
But you got to remember, the newer generations that are coming out are going to get more comfortable with this technology.
Yeah, they're going to be putting
that same mindset.
They're going to be putting LiDAR around the whole vehicle.
Yep.
And they're not going to have that same mindset as you, because they're going to grow up in it.
I'm just going to say hi to Jim. Jim from Jim's Droning has joined in. Look, you're very right. I mean, kids these days, jokingly, somebody said to me, what is a phrase you could say to a young person that they wouldn't know what you were talking about? And I said, that pedal on the left is called a clutch. Now, 30 years ago, that would have just been a joke. But I can say that 80% of the young people I know can't drive a manual and don't want to.
I think my generation, the 90s and 80s kids, were about the last generation, because I was driving a stick shift when I was 12 years old
I learned on a Volkswagen. Yeah.
When I was born in 85, so I think around my age range is probably about the last ones.
Oh, Jim Kelly, to be born in the 1980s, hey?
Unless you would grow up on like a farm these days or something, you may still drive a stick from an old farm truck or something like that. But the average city kid or suburban kid's not going to know how to drive a stick.
And I tell you something, oh my God. I've got video that I never put up from John Deere. They've got autonomous tractors. The wings go out 100 yards, okay? With the sprayers on them. Each sprayer has about 7 different nozzles that turn to decide what it's going to spray. Check this shit out. If it sees a weed, it's going to automatically turn around and spray herbicide. If it sees the corn, it's going to spray fertilizer. I mean, they have literally worked with colleges and, I guess, biologists to pick out every species on the planet.
Yeah, they do that with multispectral cameras, Jim. It's big out here, and it's reducing the use for both herbicides and fertilizers by 80-90%. I just saw a comment there by Mike Kenny. Yeah, he didn't start. I don't see an upside unless it's some country delivering medicine to a secluded village. Actually, funny you should say that, because that is happening here as of late this year. You know, Australia is pretty big. It's about as big as the continental
It's
US.
as big as the US, yeah.
Yeah, not including Canada. But of course, we've only got a population of 25 million. So we have a lot more very remote areas than, not saying the US doesn't have any, but we have a lot.
Yeah.
And, you know, we deal with that with things like School of the Air, and where kids go to school on two-way radio, and the Royal Flying Doctor Service. They're bringing in a system here late this year where they'll be delivering vaccines and medicines and so forth to remote community by long-range drones. And that, to me, that is a valid use of the technology.
Now, going back to what Jim was saying about farm equipment, man, I've seen some farms that were completely ran by robots.
Yeah.
And a 20-year-old farmer today, I'm not saying they don't work their butt off, but they're not working like a farmer was 40, 50 years ago.
No, but they're spending more money.
And they've got they've got to know a lot
I'm
more.
talking about like just being tired, manual working. They're not having to do that anymore. A lot of these tractors, I've seen some very advanced John Deere tractors that they don't even have to be in the seat. This thing will go out and plow the field without them even having to be in it.
Yes.
It's all ran by GPS.
That's the one I'm talking about that I saw at CES.
Like you were saying, the 20-year-olds aren't working as hard, but you know what they are doing is, my grandfather, I own a farm. It's the family farm, and my farm is 900 acres, which is what my grandfather farmed by himself for many, many years. Now, when we don't farm it, we lease out our farm now. Our leasers are 20-somethings, maybe early 30s, and they're actually farming close to 12,000 acres.
Yep.
Two guys.
Shit.
Two guys.
I think it's fair to say that they're not working harder, but they are working smarter.
They're working.
Yeah, I'm not bragging. I'm bagging on them or anything like that.
Oh, no, I understand what you're saying, and I'm not saying you are. They're working smarter, they're not working harder, and their line of credits are a hell of a lot bigger than they used to be.
Every generation gets more free time. I remember they were doing that study, and they were talking about that, about how much free time somebody back in the 40s had to how much free time somebody in the 60s had. And if you go up every 20 years or so, people are having more free time. Eventually, it's going to get to the point where people aren't going to have to work but a few days a week.
That's tied in, though. Sorry. That's tied in with human advancement. You know, like if we look at technological advancement, we've gained maybe 90% of human knowledge over the last 200 years. You know, up until sort of like 1700, they were living pretty much the same way as they were, you know, at Christ's time. And it's with the increase of spare time that allows people time to develop, to think new ideas, to develop technology. You know, and you notice that the more spare time we get as a race, the faster we advance.
Well, I would say like from the 1900s to about the 70s or 80s, it was kind of a good size jump. But once you got into the 90s, early 2000s, man, fucking technology has just taken off at a fast. Because I think they say computer power is doubling like every, I think, 14 months or something.
That's no longer true, but it used to be. It's somebody's law, I can't remember, but basically not so much. What's happening is there is a finite limit. You know, advances in computing power are tied down to micro miniaturization, how small we can make it, how cool we can make it run, how little power it can draw. That limits how fast, how many clock cycles. Generally, it's accepted that by about 2050 or so, most of our advancements in computing are going to come from software. We will, we're reaching molecular scale now.
Yeah.
We won't be able to go. We won't be able to go much further.
Yeah,
Listen, did you guys see the video of a nano drone that could take an atom and move an atom? Did you see that video? It was CGI. Oh, I was like, holy shit. You're talking about nuclear stuff. How does this tiny little drone, because we know they've got tiny little drones, the military's using that one that we...
Like a Dragonfly.
Was $80,000.
Dragonfly, yeah. And now that you're using them to move atoms, oh my God. But
that's where we're at. And, as I was saying...
Look what the cell phone did. Look, the cell phone destroyed humanity. It's no longer, hey, Bob, I'll meet you at the bar. It's now you're texting. Nah, I don't feel like meeting you. I don't feel like going out. I don't feel like doing it.
Even your guys' generation has gotten drawn in that just as bad as the younger generation. I see older people on their phones just as much as somebody who's in their 20s.
I only have one thing I refuse. Sorry, Kelly, go ahead.
I was just going to say I had to adapt to my daughters, man. The only way I can communicate with them now is over Snapchat.
Jesus.
I refuse to text with my kids and their friends. Because my wife and I are foster parents and whatnot. I have a relationship with a lot of younger people as well, and there's about 20, 30 kids call me Papa. But my one rule is, I don't text. If you want to talk to me, call me. I'm 6'4" and my hands don't work real well with little keyboards anyway. But yeah, that's my line. I want to hear your voice if you want to. And I'm considered to be an old stick in the mud. I admit it.
Yeah. No. If you've gotten a text from me, it's had at least 2 or 3 words that have been screwed up by autocorrect.
Yeah, you did that just the other day when you were messaging me on Messenger.
I cannot. Remember I told you I hate this thing?
Yeah,
I cannot. I'll slide it around to make the word Bob. It'll come out with Tony or some shit. I don't know. I can't stand it. And I'm not good. Like Ron can do his thumbs.
My best was I told somebody I was going to send them a testament, and it came out that I was going to send them a testicle. I like you, but I'll say nice things about you, but I will draw a line. You're not having that.
So, gentlemen, if I can, I'm just going to sign off here. My phone's starting to blow up now from my girlfriend and my kids. And plus, I'm at work, so I need to go get some sleep in case we get called out tonight. So,
take care, Kelly.
Yeah.
Great talking with you guys tonight. Have a good one.
Nice meeting you, Kelly.
Have we ruined every technology yet? Nanobots, yeah, will be a big part of it. I believe so. They have so much machine learning going on and AI that we're not hearing about everything. You know what I mean?
Well, think about what the Elon Musks are working on behind the doors, what NSA is working on behind the doors. That's shit you ain't seeing. That's probably 20 years ahead of where we're at now.
Look, I can tell you in 2001, it was that GM came out with the EV1 electric vehicle. They were so good that they were all taken back and crushed. That's how scared they were of electric vehicles in 2001. Look, now you've got Teslas going for $30,000.
And look what his space program has done in the past five years or so. I mean, they have made leaps and bounds. They kind of lit a fire back under NASA's ass because NASA got really stagnant there for quite a few years where they weren't really doing a whole lot. But it seems like since Elon's companies got in there with them, it's kind of, they've really hit the...
Yeah, but Elon said, screw society and what they think. I'm going to make it anyway. When General Motors made those cars, gave them out to all the Hollywood stars, because that one who's a big green guy, I forget his name now, Ed Begley Jr.
Al Gore?
Ed Begley Jr. had one of those cars, the EV1.
That's not the first instance like that, Jim. Yeah, we had a guy here in Australia. People don't realise, Australia is... We don't have a huge manufacturing base, but we're an inventing powerhouse. Wi-Fi, it's all ours. But back in the 70s, 80s, we had a guy out here, his name was Ralph Sarich. He developed an engine, an orbital engine, which did utterly insane mileage. And my grandfather was still alive then. He was qualified in 11 areas of engineering, including atomic. Before the Second World War, he was involved in jet engine research in Britain. And, we were watching this Ralph Sarich, becoming a big thing on television, and he was looking for investors. And my grandfather just quietly said, yeah, well, he's not the first. And I said, what do you mean, Granddad? And he mentioned the name of he said, this was done in the 1930s. And I said, well, why aren't we seeing it on the streets now? He said, I was bought up by the oil companies and disappeared. And funnily enough, Ralph Sarich couldn't get backing here in Australia. And, it was bought out by overseas interests. Well, that's 40 years ago. We haven't seen that either. It's just crazy.
I would love to see what Australia and the U.S. are working on together, because there's tons of U.S. military, like high secret sites in Australia.
Yeah. That's a lot of it, and we work with the US hand in glove with everything. We've got a lot of research here, but we can't develop it. So, I think we do a lot of our research, and the ideas go to the US to be developed. But unfortunately, at the moment, please ring up your local congressman on our behalf. We had the Chinese national mouthpiece paper state last week that when they invade Taiwan, should Australia oppose them, that they will launch missiles at Australia. So with little help, please, guys. We signed that nuclear non-proliferation treaty, even though we own 80% of the uranium on the face of the planet. We don't have our own. Look after your little, what did they call us? Your little sheriff in the Pacific?
No, we always do.
This is the thing, though, with China, though. Yes, they got a big military, but there's so many. The U.S. military still leaps and bounds ahead of them on a lot of stuff. Like their sub technology is still 20
Chinese
years
island
behind.
built off of Vietnam.
It's still 20 years.
China used a dredge, okay, and built an island and created a naval base off of Vietnam.
Yep.
And the U.S. Navy skims it all the time. They go right next to it. They don't.
The U.S. Navy has been told, we're going to blow you up and all this other shit, and we're just waiting for the Chinese to start a war.
According to most of the top line analysts, and I'm talking about your own here, as well as others, in conventional warfare capabilities, the US is no longer ahead of China. And that's that's not, well, I don't. And that's not even taking into account the fact that Russia and China are now getting very, very chummy. What's really required, and here in Australia, the Chinese have big inroads into our universities. You speak out against China and Australia, and you're in trouble. I could get hate mail over this if the wrong person saw this broadcast. But really, what we need is a message to China very similar to what Kennedy gave the Soviet Union during the Cuban Missile Crisis, which is if this goes down, it's not going to be a conventional war, where it's going to be an unrestrained nuclear strike with everything we've got, and you may be able to stop some of it, but you may not. You're not going to win, and that's it.
Yeah, but the big thing about China, though, is China doesn't have a true deep water blue navy. That's one of their biggest downfalls.
Listen,
aircraft carriers are a piece of crap compared to the U.S. or the UK's aircraft carriers.
You know what China does have? Your land. Look up how much of New York City, for instance, is owned by China. They buy up real estate like it's insane.
If you get in a two with them, what are they going to do? Evict you out of your house?
China have two operational aircraft carriers now, which are Soviet cast-offs. They have two more in their own shipyards, bigger than anything that the US owns, which will be in the water later this year, and two more within 2.5 years.
I just don't think that they would win, because they don't have the experience at the US Navy, Air Force. They have so much. You got to think the U.S. has been in constant war for the past 80 years, nonstop, in and out.
You don't have to tell us about it. We were in every one with you.
That's what I'm saying, is the experience of Japan, and then you have Japan's very advanced military. You have the UK's very advanced military. You start adding all these up.
Let me take one thing.
The Chinese have been at war as long as the US. Do you really think that it was just the Koreans you were fighting in Korea? My father has the US presidential citation for the Battle of Kapyong, which was against the Chinese, not the Koreans.
The frozen chosen reservoir.
Do you really think that it was the Vietnamese who were flying against you in Vietnam?
No, I mean, I know that they had an involvement in that, but I just don't think that they have the experience. Look how big Saddam's military was and how good we were at dismantling his entire country within weeks.
Saddam's military was 35 years out of date and unsupported. China doesn't rely on other countries to provide their parts and their service. They build their own.
A lot of China's like tanks and stuff, they have a lot of them, but they are out of date. Not everything's.
Do you know that when Australia made the vast mistake of contracting to buy the pieces of shit that you call the F-35, China offered to sell us their latest 5th, 6th generation, whatever it was. They were going to sell us 300 of them for the price that you were going to sell us 30, and they were also going to give us our own factory and our license to build them here now. Fortunately, Australia was smart enough to see what was going on, unlike a lot of the other little Pacific nations who have allowed China in, and they now control them financially. And we said, no, we'll stick with who we know. Thank you very much, because we don't know what we're going to be owing you later on down the track.
Right.
But it's worth a lot more research to see exactly where they're at. They're ahead of you when it comes to hypersonic missiles. It's a worry.
You're talking about the D-20? Was it
I'm talking about the things that don't even make it into the media and the reports.
Listen, you've got 25 million. We've got 378 million. They got 1.4 billion people.
Yeah, but numbers don't matter in war.
They do when they send them over as an army.
Well, as far as America goes, or even China, Australia goes,
I'm not worried about it.
That's not an issue. But let's look at Taiwan, where this started. 15 years ago, US analysts quite rightly scoffed at the idea of China being able to invade Taiwan. They called it the million-man swim, because that was the only way China was going to get the military over there. Now, it's not a joke. They have the infrastructure, they have the transport, they have the fleet to land enough of their forces on Taiwan. And that's, the next war is not going to be fought in the US or in Australia even. It's going to be fought in the South China Sea around Taiwan.
Well, you had a 100-year contract where
that won't last long.
Yeah, no, it's over. We gave Taiwan back to China.
Oh no, sorry, I thought you were talking about the Port of Darwin. Currently, the Chinese did get into Australia with their belt and braces program, and fortunately, the federal government has repealed most of those agreements and turfed them out, which is another reason why China don't love us too much. But currently, they own a 99-year lease on the Port of Darwin, which was the major port that the US military used out of Australia in the Second World War. We really need to get them out of there. They're not our friends.
Australia and Jerusalem and Israel are partners the United States will not afford losing. They would never let anything happen.
It's the same with the UK, too. I would bundle the UK in there with that too, and even South Korea and Japan would be bundled in there.
Japan is we shouldn't overlook them, and
because they hate the Chinese,
and a lot of people have not noticed the fact that finally, only 3 years ago, after the Second World War, the Japanese Constitution was amended so that they could not have anything except a self-defense force.
Now they're doing offensive.
And the reason that Japan has never joined in with NATO or anybody else is because it was in their constitution that it's illegal for their forces to serve outside of Japan. Well, 3 years ago, that was all overturned. Japan knows which way. And I read a very interesting, this is the thing being retired, you got too much time to read. I read a very interesting analysis of Japan, which basically stated that if they decided that they wanted to have ICBMs, an offensive nuclear strike capability, somewhere between 7 and 9 months is what it would take them to develop it. We shouldn't overlook Japan. They're good people to have on our side now.
Oh, they have a very good military and navy. And they're very advanced too. I mean,
yes.
But that's what I'm saying is if you take Japan, Australia, the UK, and the US, and you add just those 5 together, that is a powerhouse right there of just
the US has more aircraft.
Technology.
The U.S. has more aircraft than the UK military has personnel.
Well, the biggest Air Force is the U.S. Air Force. The second biggest is the U.S. Navy.
Well, you know,
that's as long as you still keep Republicans coming in every 8, 12, 15 years. You can remember guys like Jimmy Carter and all that who were destroying our nation. Closed how many bases? When I was in the Marines, I was at Cherry Point, North Carolina. Milford, Memphis, Tennessee was a training base. It's gone. El Toro, California was a Marine Corps station. Gone. These places have been wiped off the map, and they're neighborhoods now.
People don't realize, I think, how slim the resources are for other countries. You know, people still think Britannia rules the waves, and of course, obviously the US is obviously bigger, but people think, oh, you know, the British are a naval powerhouse. Yeah, well, their navy is currently less than 20 ships. Yeah, it's in every.
They're small, but they are well trained.
But
yes,
we're a coalition with each other that has been working perfectly. U.S., UK, Australia, Israel. I mean, let me tell you something. The planes I worked on in 1970, 79, the A4F.
Yep.
Attack Israel was using in the 7-Day War, and then all these. That aircraft is still a great quick strike, light, small strike fighter.
Is that the Sky Raider, I think it's called, isn't it, Jim? But yeah, look, there's a lot of countries that use that. Iraq was using that. A lot of countries use that as a frontline fighter. And I understand there's quite a lot of them in reserve, even in the United States themselves. I think the National Guard use them.
I actually got in trouble. See, Yuma, Arizona is a training base. You're stuck there for 2 years because you have to know the plane better than the person getting in the plane. So we used to have people from Iraq, from Israel, and they were all captains and all this shit. Well, I went into Article 15 of the UCMJ because I refused to salute foreign officers. You're not a United States Marine. I'm not gonna salute you. I had some Iranian giving me shit back in '79. Well, too bad. And I got what they call office hours for it. UCMJ 15, Article 15. So what? I'm never going to do it. You know, you have to grow a pair of balls in this country. You know what I mean? And people have forgotten what balls are. Turns out when I said this 17-year-old idiot signed a contract for an aircraft option, I told the guy I wanted aircraft, I want to work on the engines. Well, they take you out of Parris Island boot camp, you go to training school. They put you in lines and say, okay, you're going to be in flight crew. You're going to be in this. You're going to be in that. Jim said, no, Jim's going to be in Long Island if Jim ain't working on the aircraft. Not bullshit. They assigned me to flight something. Anyway, I didn't know what that was. And so I shouldn't even say this shit. But anyway, I didn't know what it was and I refused it. They took me in the back. You can't review. I'll tell you what, boys. I'll be back on Long Island. You guys want to change your mind? Let me know. So then they put me in the aircraft school that I wanted. 6042 MLS. I was an aircraft structural mechanic. Now, the point was, what they were going to put me in was the one who does the sewing for the flight uniforms that the pilot wears. They think you're dumbasses. And there are points in your life where you got to stand up for yourself, God damn it. My father beat the shit out of me so bad that none of you people are going to do anything to me.
Look, I think that, you know, our politicians have too much say in peacetime, don't listen enough to our military. You know, when it comes, you know, you're talking about having these people from various countries. You know, we have United States personnel embedded, you know, on loan or whatever they call it, in the Australian forces and Brits, and we have Australians personnel who serve with the US forces, you know, learning how everyone does everything. Same with the British. You know, a bit of respect. We're all old, long-time allies going back a century or more. I have no problem when I see an Australian serviceman saluting a US officer or vice versa. You know, I know whose side they're on. But like you, we get people here from Singapore and a lot of the Middle Eastern countries, and they're only a friend right now because it suits them to be.
Right.
And you know, I know for a fact, because as you know, I'm a military brat. I come from a military, 7 generations of it. I know for a fact that, you know, our guys grit their teeth. They do what they're told, but they don't like it.
Here's
Well, it's
another
like,
example. Mike Kenny, you talk about the A10 Warthog.
beast.
That was made by Fairchild Republic, which used to be off of Route 110 on Long Island. Well, both them and Grumman Corporation are off Long Island, gone.
Well,
We
yeah,
lost
the A10
100,000 jobs there.
The A10 is just a gun with a plane around it. You know, it's an animal. I love it. It's a 40. I think it's 40 millimeter, isn't it? It's an utter beast of a gun.
If you ever seen a 40 millimeter, I got a 2020 Mike that the A4 you shoot out like a Gatling gun, one on each side.
Yep.
I've got a 2020 Mike upstairs. I can't imagine the size of a 40.
Well, the A10 actually has to shoot in succession because it can actually put so much thrust against the motors that it can stall the plane out because it's got so much recoil. That's an amazing
insane.
plane.
That is insane.
Yeah,
no one wants to fight the A10 Warthog. Yeah. I wonder if this is going to show it shooting.
I believe it's a 30 millimeter. I think. I don't think it's a 40. I think it's a 30.
I don't know. If I don't know, I don't talk about it. So we used to have the problem in Yuma, Arizona, when we were training pilots. They would look back to see where their bombs would drop, and they would fly into the mountains of California.
And that plane was made back in the 70s too, wasn't it?
I think 88.
It was either 70s or 80s. It's not a newer plane by any means.
No.
But it's proved itself over the years, kind of like the B-52, how it's still in service.
And will be for another 20 years.
Hey, why retire good things that work? I want to see it. There we go. I think, oh, man, it hit us with another commercial. I'm not playing that commercial.
But, you know, the Chinese military tried to work with Canada, I believe it was last year, and the Canadian generals refused to do it. They told the government, we're not working with them. And they refused to do any training with them.
Well, the hell of it was that before the current president, Xi, whatever you want to call him, China was on a totally different path to where they are now. Australia, you know, they are still our biggest trading partner, although they're trying to kill us financially at the moment. But they were a lot easier. That was at the point when they offered us the alternative aircraft deal instead of the F-35s. They were on a lot different path to where they are now. And then, you know, Xi got into power and did a bit of a Putin, you know, had the law changed so that he could stay president for life and started this wolf warrior diplomacy. I love the A-10s. And, you know, how many times have they tried to retire them now, Jim? Is it 2 or 3 times they've tried and brought them out of retirement every time?
Look at this, and it still flew.
Well, they wanted to replace. That was one of the planes that was on the chopping block for the F-35 to replace.
Yeah.
But then the generals, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said it's got too much of a certain role that you can't get rid of it.
Let me tell you something. Behind every aircraft, okay, now we can talk about this in a second because you guys know where I'm going with this. Behind every aircraft in the United States military, there's actually a cable system. When you pull this back, it's pulling cables and all that shit.
Yeah, they're not fly-by-wire.
So when those that's where I was going. So when those electronics and the hydraulics fail, Billy Bob still has a way to get the plane down.
Oh,
the
F-22 is fly-by-wire, isn't it, Jim?
Fly-by-wire. It was the first fly-by-wire plane. I don't remember the name of it. When it was screwing up, the wires were shorting out by vibration, and a couple of guys actually got killed. And
there was an F-16. F-16 was the first aircraft they tried a fly-by-wire system in a total fly. And you know, but look, the US. Don't know, Jim, you might have missed it, but the US announced this week that they are cutting back from 7 supported airframes to 4. And one of the ones that they are proposing to do away with is the F-22. It's going to be prematurely retired. They're going to keep the F-16, the F-15EX, the latest Eagle. I can't remember the third, and one yet to be announced. I think it would be a large mistake to decommission the F-22.
Well, there was rumors going around that they have already developed a plane that was better than the F-22.
Hard to do, but of course it'll happen. But planes tend to stay
a good 20 years at least.
Yeah, a lot longer than they think. I mean, look at the latest iteration of the F-15, the EX, is, well, in the war games, it comes very, very close to the F-22s under certain conditions. How old's the F-15 goes back to the 1970s, doesn't it, Jim? We're talking about a 50-year-old airframe. It's still relevant. How long was the F-4? The F-4 only went out of service in '89, I think it was.
The F-4 was made for the Korean War, but used in Vietnam.
Yeah,
just like the A-4 Skyhawk. This is the Douglas A-4 Skyhawk.
Yeah, the main
only thing that
drawback with the
changed
F4
on these is they would put electronic counts on. So when it changed from an A to an E to a B, all that really changed was they were putting electronics on top.
Well, and the F4 was the first jet that they didn't put a machine gun in, which they found was
and they
very
changed
bad
their mind
idea.
about that. Yeah, they changed their mind about that quickly.
It was a fighter. It would usually go out with A4s, which are attack planes. See, it's armed with two 20-20 mics. Those things are, unbelievable cannons. It's a fantastic airplane. Light and can move like a son of a bitch.
You've just got to know how to use your assets. I mean, Australia pretty much dominated the South Pacific for 25 years with 3 squadrons of bloody F-111s, which the US hated with a passion. The US hated the damn things. We utilized them differently to how you did, and we kept reminding Indonesia we can drop a nuke on Jakarta any time of the day or night, and we can do it at 10 feet off the deck and near enough to Mark II, and they just didn't like that.
This is actually wrong. This video said we stopped using them in '79. That's actually wrong.
Well, think about the F-22. They started designing that back in the early 90s.
Yes.
These jets aren't something that you can just make overnight. I don't care what country it is. It takes at least 10 years of planning.
Yeah, see, it says the Marine Corps kept the Skyhawk in service longer. That's why I was saying that was wrong, because in '79 we were still using them. On my base, we had F-4s, A-4s, and I don't know if you remember these, the AVA-8 Harriers, jump jets.
Yep.
That's what was in VMAT 102, Yuma, Arizona.
The British are still using.
I liked that, the jump jet. You just had to have a pilot who could use it.
Well, I can remember, people used to say, the Harrier's never going to be anything good except for local area coverage. It's sub-supersonic, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, till the Falklands came in, and they were using Dassault Mirages, Mark 1.7. And, the British owned the air. It's more than just the tool. It's the man in the cockpit and the training.
Right.
But what makes the A-10 such a good plane, though, is that everything has a redundancy system in it. That's why it can damn near lose a whole wing and still fly home. Like you'll see videos.
Have you guys seen that footage of the Israeli fellow who landed the F-15 without a wing?
No.
Might have. Sounds familiar.
This is going back into the 80s or quite a few years. A guy in Israel was involved in a mid-air collision with while flying an F-15 and actually truncated the wing, the starboard wing, I think it was, at the first pylon, and he couldn't see anything because of all the fuel spraying out. But he found that by tilting the aircraft to port, he could control it, and he landed it at about 200 knots with only one wing. Just excuse me for a second, guys.
You see this? You see this A4? This is in Argentina. This has none of the electronics up on top. It was a round hub. It looked terrible, and it had all the electronic HUD systems up on it. And of course, we never exported that when we sold the airplanes to, like, this is Argentina. But
the reason why I think the U.S.
Yeah, see right there, behind the cockpit. You see that big hub on the back of it?
Oh yeah.
That's all electronics.
I think that what reason why I have more faith in the U.S. military is because you get a different type of mindset when you're volunteer versus conscript. I think a volunteer military fights better than a conscripted military does.
Well, the Australian military is volunteer only.
And I think
Sorry, I was just going to say, until times of war, we all tend to go for conscription, when there's a big war going on. But
I like that Australia and New Zealand both use the A4. Israel kept it for a long time, man. Argentina only stopped using it in 2016. Anyway,
Israel are past masters out of making the best out of what they've got. I mean, they only retired their last Sherman tanks in the 1990s. Yeah, okay, they were massively upgraded and upgunned and up-armored and whatnot. But nonetheless, do you know the last German Panzers were operated by Israel? They captured them off the Arabs and then used them themselves up until the 80s or whatnot. They're no such thing as obsolete. For the Israelis, it's obsolete when it falls apart.
Well, there's a lot of Middle East countries that are still using really old stuff from like the 50s and 60s. And it's like, why even try maintaining that kind of force because if you really got into a conflict with somebody that was just had 90s technology, they would completely decimate you. I think at that point, unless you're just using asymmetrical type warfare on them.
These guys are saying the stream crashed.
Ah.
YouTube's doing it. Mike's saying you can't open up other tabs either.
Hold on, I'm reloading it on my phone. Let me see if it
I
pops
can still see you on
YouTube.
YouTube.
Tell them to reload it.
Video keeps dropping out. Refresh again, Jody says.
Once I refresh my phone, it popped back on. It's probably your internet, Jim.
We're down to 7 people, so let's end it.
Cool, Jim. All right, guys. Thanks for having me in. Everyone in the chat. I'm going to go back to bed. I feel like I've been pulled backwards through a keyhole by the nuts.